Well, with the drama yesterday about everything that was going on with Williams Winery not coming to campus, David Stone dropping his final five, I think it was, and announcing the commitment date, y'all were blowing it up on Twitter. And although we talked about it, and although we talked about the chaos that all of this is with recruiting a five-star defensive lineman, something we got to talk about. Something we got to talk about with Will David Stone being Oklahoma Sooner. And I'm going to put in pretty much my final thoughts here about all of this. And I'm going to give you guys my final prediction of where I think David Stone will land. It might shock a lot of you. It might not. But guys, before we do that, before we talk about it, before we dive into it, is there anything else that we can do before we do anything else? I don't think so. Go ahead and hit that like, hit the subscribe button, jump down in the comments below and let me know what y'all's thoughts are. This one's just going to be simple. Where do you guys think David Stone will end up playing his college football career? So David Stone announced that August 26th is going to be the date. It's going to be the date where he commits to either the Miami Hurricanes, the Florida Gators, the Oklahoma Sooners, the Oregon Ducks, the Michigan State Spartans, or the Texas A&M Aggies. And a lot of you guys might be scratching your head and going, where's Alabama on this list? And that's because, well, there was supposedly this report put out somewhere. I heard somewhere from On3 that he would be taking an official visit to Alabama. But, like, is that really official? Like, is there anything actually going to be set in stone there? Because Alabama's not in this final list of schools. And so this would be something like, oh, who was that offensive lineman that committed to Texas that hadn't taken a visit to Texas yet? Wasn't even in his top schools list, and he committed there. You guys know who I'm talking about. But David Stone, I feel like, knows what he's doing. Like, let's say he really did tell somebody, I'm taking an official visit to Alabama and I'm taking an official visit to Texas A&M during the middle of the season. And this is my top six. And then he talks about committing, and let's say he's going to commit to Oklahoma and he knows he's not going to be able to take those visits. The dude knows what he's doing. He knows how to build his brand and he knows how to try to throw everybody off. Now, although I just don't think he's doing a very good job of it. And if David Stone watches this, I'm sorry. It's just, I think everybody expects David Stone to be an Oklahoma Sooner at the end of the day, that it would be more of a shock if he ended up committing somewhere else rather than David Stone trying to throw everybody off during his recruitment. But ultimately, at the end of the day, who are we to take away David Stone's commitment and recruitment from him and say, this is where you have to go? And I think as fans, we do this so often. And I think this is kind of the problems that you've seen, especially with what David Stone has posted on Twitter, is I feel like fans and insiders and everybody else, and this is no shot at anybody, but we have tried to basically take this recruitment and this commitment away from this kid by saying you have to go here because you're from here. You're just expected to do it. But in reality, what if the kid completely wanted to go somewhere else? What if he wanted to see something different? What if he had a better relationship like at Michigan State or at Miami? Or what if he gets to Alabama and he's just like, I want to be a part of everything that Alabama's done and try to continue Nick Saban's legacy? You can't fault him for that. And you can't fault the kids, taking this recruitment in their own hand and making the decision that they feel like is best for them. At the end of the day, we as fans can't make that decision, and we can't say what is best for the kid because we don't know. And ultimately, we know that David Stone's going to end up making the decision that he feels like is best for him and his family. And although I hope it's going to be in an Oklahoma Sooner uniform, it could be the Gators. It could be Oregon. As long as I really hope it's not Oregon or A&M. If we lose them to anybody, just not Oregon or A&M. Okay? I'll be fine with any of the other ones. But I ultimately think at the end of the day, David Stone will be a Sooner. And I feel like David Stone understands the impact that he will have on a recruiting class wherever he goes, but I definitely think he understands the impact of what he will have on the recruiting trail for the Sooners because of the narrative that's been around Oklahoma football for so long, especially with defensive line recruiting and losing out on other 5-stars. I think David Stone knows, yeah, if I go there, I have an opportunity to help turn around the team that I've watched for so long and the team that I've grown up around, right? I have the opportunity to do something not a lot of other people have the opportunity to do. But also at the same time, he has the opportunity to go to Florida or Miami and do a similar thing. Just, well, he might not be as familiar with those programs as he is Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, we can follow the visits here with David Stone, and we can follow and look and see how many times he's actually been to the University of Oklahoma and say, yeah, but Preston, all the signs point that he would be a Sooner, because generally you can look at the visits and say that's where the kid's heart is. And you look at the visits, and I specifically refer to On3 here because they actually put the visit list up there, but they have him being to Oklahoma 14 times, and it actually might be a little more than that. You've got around 13 unofficial visits and 1 official. And then you look at some of the other schools that have been in contention. Michigan State has 8 visits, 7 unofficials, 1 official. The Gators have 5, 1 official, 4 unofficials, and Miami has 5, 4 unofficials, 1 official. Now, Texas A&M, 3 unofficial visits, didn't get an official visit, but obviously things can happen in the season, and a player can get that they can get more than 5 visits, which is why Alabama, who's sitting down there with 1 unofficial visit, which was in March 5th of 2022, yeah, if they get an unofficial or if they get an official visit for him, Nick Saban can come in and close this. So at the end of the day, we can follow the visits and we can see Oklahoma clearly has an advantage over everybody else just by looking at the official or the unofficial visits list. And you've heard so much about the relationship that he has with Todd Bates, and he's got his buddy Jaden Jackson here. And we've heard about the conversations that have been had with him and Ajonye and Nigel Smith about being the best defensive line in the country. And although Ajonye is not here anymore, you know, swap out Ajonye for Jaden Jackson, and you still have potentially 3 of those guys on this team next year. And then you've got the potential of adding a Williams Nwaneri and a Zena Yumi or a Danny Okoye, which, listen, if you land a defensive line class of that, I mean, this is one of the best defensive line classes I feel like we will have seen of all time be recruited to any school, but definitely to the University of Oklahoma. And again, I come back to the point, David Stone, it feels like, and it seems, based off the interactions you see on Twitter and everything else, seems like David Stone is a well-respected recruit in this recruiting cycle. And it seems like he knows a lot of people and he has a lot of contacts. And one of the things I've talked about before is you never know. David Stone gets to the University of Oklahoma. Maybe he's able to convince a couple guys that haven't been giving Oklahoma the rightful look that maybe they should have, like a Jordan Seaton, a Jordan Johnson-Rubel, somebody like that, and say, hey, come to Oklahoma. I'm here. They come to Oklahoma. They like their visit. Maybe Oklahoma's in the running for that player now. Ultimately, I still think David Stone will be a Sooner. I feel like it's going to be hard to bet against the unofficial visits. I feel like it's going to be hard to bet against the hometown. But if I couldn't pick Oklahoma and I had to pick another school, shoot, I like him in a Gator uniform just because I think that blue on David Stone, you've seen the pictures. And I'm not sure what his relationships is with some of these other schools and some of these other coaches. You guys know it. I haven't been able to get David Stone on the podcast. I haven't talked to him. But just from everything that we've evaluated and that we've seen, whether it's on Twitter or we've heard, it all points to say David Stone will be a Sooner, but the kid just wants to take his commitment back. He wants to take his recruitment back. And I feel like we see this a lot with a lot of guys. They just want their commitments back. They want it to be their thing, not somebody else's. But guys, I want to hear from you, and I want to hear what your thoughts are, because this Oklahoma defensive line, like I said, it could be absolutely phenomenal. David Stone, Jaden Jackson, Nigel Smith, Williams Nwaneri, Danny Okoye, Zena Yumi, and then not to mention Oklahoma, they're just on the rise. So jump down in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Do you think David Stone will be in Oklahoma sooner?